We've got the brand new Hero Spotlight for Obsidia right here, everyone. And also, straight away, I will say this is a design of all time. Now that I'm looking at it on my screen in full HD. Okay.
Obsidia, the sovereign of Dark's End. Obsidia is a hero that requires early game farming to reach her full potential and take over in the mid to late game.
AKA a marksman. Alright, let's look at her skills.
Passive, return to bone. When Obsidia...
You can't design a character that looks like this and give her a passive called Return to Bone, Moonton. You can't just do that.
deals damage to enemy minions, heroes, or structures, she gains bone energy.
Again, Moonton. Think about the casters when you're doing this. Think about how we are going to feel having to cast a game and say bone energy. Please, thank you.
Obsidia attacks an enemy, all her bone shards will shoot off and home in on the target. First skill.
What? Hold on, wait. So, hold on. So she gets bone energy from attacking and using skills, which will convert into bone shards, which stack up throughout the entire match. And then that will determine the amount of shards that fire off
will stack up throughout the match
when she attacks.
All her bone
and this doesn't get expended, which means that she is Aldous, but better. That seems kind of scary, actually. Isn't that like a lot? Like it depends on how quickly these stack up. Because we know that Aldous stacks up through like getting last hits with his skill 1. This is based on a number of attacks to like structures and opponents. So that will determine how OP this ends up being. But I'm already like, this is infinite scaling on a marksman. Aldous has infinite scaling, but because he's a fighter, he's very kiteable. So it's very manageable. But this is infinite scaling on a marksman. The last time we had infinite scaling on a marksman was on Granger. And that wasn't even based on damage, that was more on skill spammability, and it still made him very OP. You typically want to avoid putting infinite scaling on a marksman precisely because of this issue. Okay, we'll have to see. This one requires a bit of time to really tell, because it's very difficult to see. This one is very determinant on numbers to decide how OP it actually ends up being. But Bin is correct in that blade armor is an item, and considering how many different attacks this is, blade armor will be a very hard counter to this hero. And since she can't really stop herself from stacking, unless there's some way of doing that later, that might end up being a huge Achilles heel.
First skill, Abyssal Bone Needle.
She's just gonna have bone in everything, is it?
Needle of bone. Second skill, Phantom Shadow Meld.
Okay,
Obsidia
no bone
into the abyss and enters Shadow Meld form, greatly increasing her movement
okay, so this
speed for
gives...
short duration.
So this is the mobility skill.
Hunt of Bone.
Okay, the bone is back.
Obsidia fires the Bones of Wrath in the target direction, dealing damage and briefly stunning the first enemy hero.
Single target stun
pulls herself
and
close
pull.
to the target. The Bones of Wrath will latch onto the target and tether Obsidia to them. Obsidia will be locked to a certain distance from the tethered enemy, and the enemy will be unable to use dash or blank skills. When the enemy moves, Obsidia will move with
what? That's interesting. That's different. Okay, that already seems very risky. In the first place, yes, it's very handy to have a skill that denies all mobility skills, but you are tethering yourself to a lock distance from an opponent, and they can decide how far you are allowed to move. And mind you, you are a marksman. You are squishy. That is not supposed to be your job, actually. You are specifically putting yourself in a very dangerous position when you do this. Like, yes, you're denying them mobility, but if your opponent takes like sprint or something, and just drags you along with them into their allies, you're just effed, you're just screwed, you're boned. That doesn't seem like it would be very good, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I can imagine she would have very high 1v1 ability, especially when she gets into the late game, but considering how much damage is in the meta right now, I feel like she would just die. That seems like it's not very good.
Opportunities to close in on a target with her ultimate and pick them off with your team.
But it's mostly single target.
Use her mobility and powerful basic attacks to clean up the remaining enemies.
So it doesn't look like she has a lot of AoE teamfight ability, but she would be very good at melting a single person very quickly. But again, based on the amount of like bone shards she's gonna be firing, she is going to be very vulnerable to blade armor. So you actually have to draft the correct team lineup around this. You do not want to have multiple auto attackers, because if your opponent just builds blade armor to counter multiple of you, Obsidia just ends up like rip very quickly. Second skill is a burst movement speed boost, not a dash. Yeah, that as well. It means she can't dash over walls either. She's actually very vulnerable then. She's not as high mobility as I expected from the initial clip. She can fly through walls while she's using ult. Second is spammable during... Oh!
Obsidia will move.
It does look like your skill 2 is enhanced, but they don't actually explain anything about it. I feel like that's something in the hero spotlight that's missing. Yeah, they're not showing it.
It'll build substantial passive energy, so try to land them as much as possible to rapidly stack her passive.
Okay, so based on what... Hold on.
First skill triggers the...
Based on what I can see from this clip,
first skill builds substantial passive energy.
if you only auto attack, her bone energy builds up very slowly. But she gets a lot from her skill 1. You can see that all filled up nearly half the bar on its own. It looks like it doesn't recharge that fast, and when you get a full bar, you get 1 stack of the shards, so it's not that quick. It's actually a little slower than all this, but the damage scales a lot higher. It basically means you have to lane her against a very strong early game hero. Like, you want to play like Clint or Brody, or like, not even Popol actually. I don't think you can afford to play Popol because you can just stack her auto attacks on Koopa. So you need to like really make sure she's not allowed to free hit early game, or you are in some trouble.
It disables enemy movement skills.
Okay, wait, we needed to see this during the initial showcase. Hero Spotlight, this is important. Holy shit, wait, that's okay. That changes everything. That actually changes everything. Hold on, that's like...
Obsidia's ultimate disables enemy movement skills.
It's a massive dash, it's much longer, and as Ray pointed out, it looks like it does get you over walls. She also enters like a purple state. Based on the fact that there's no text above her head, I'm gonna assume that she's not like untargetable or anything like that. It's just like a effect. But this is huge. Also, she just used it and it's already on a 1 second cooldown. So it is very spammable.
Highly effective against heroes that rely on...
Yeah, incredibly spammable. You guys are right. It is movement like Matilda. It is not quite a dash, it's more of a circle. So this is very good for 1v1, but it is still not particularly good in a teamfight situation. She is still locking herself into a very restricted space that is moved by her opponent. And the only way she can dash is by circling around them, which if you are in a team fight, you are basically putting yourself between an opponent and their allies. Like, you have to position yourself really, really well. I don't think Obsidia is going to be that good in team fighting. Or at the very least, her skills are not like perfectly designed for team fighting, but if you have the correct composition, then you can basically like CC a bunch of people together and slowly whittle them down, and then Obsidia can use ult when there's like 2 or 3 people left on fairly low HP. That's probably how you really want to use it. Or she can start the fight by picking off someone instantly with the ultimate and then stand back afterwards. But it's definitely not team fight based abilities. She is a Reaper, yeah, I can see that. Good against Yin, yeah, Judah's correct about that. She's more of a finisher type. She's very good at 1v1.
We recommend the Assassin emblem with Swift.
Swift makes sense.
And Weakness
yeah, Weakness Finder makes a lot of sense. Okay, if her bone shards count as auto attacks, Weakness Finder goes ham. But I'm going to assume they don't because it might be too OP. Because then you could also trigger things like Demon Hunter's Sword, Windtalker, and so on. I'm gonna assume that her Bone Shards don't count as auto attacks.
Main focus in the early to mid game is to...
But then they would have to in order for Blade Armor to work. They do then. They do count as auto attacks. So Weakness Finder goes ham, Windtalker goes ham, Corrosion Scythe goes ham. She's almost definitely a Trinity hero. Does she even need to be a Trinity hero? Her auto attack timing would be really fast. She could be crit as well.
Attacks will hit many times, allowing her to
basic attacks hit many times.
And greatly
so they do count as basic attacks then. So they suggest a crit build rather than a Trinity build, which I can see why they would, because you usually go a Trinity build to increase attack speed to take advantage of heroes that already benefit from like having good passives, right? So like Carrie will usually go Trinity because she just wants to attack faster. Moskov will go Trinity so that he can attack faster so that he gets more access to dashes. But Obsidia already naturally attacks very quickly, so because of that she can benefit from crit instead. It's a similar issue to it's a similar situation to like Layla Mia, where they will typically be able to attack quite quickly on their own. Just get like a Windtalker to really maximize it.
Crit attributes are great.
Windtalker would go ham.
Well. Haas's claws offer
and Haas claws would also go ham.
Gun's physical penetration makes Obsidia
having
more
that many basic attacks is actually really good.
Gold Meteor provides her with extra survivability. We also recommend this specialized basic attack.
Never mind! They also have a Trinity build. I was wondering if this may be a case of a marksman that can actually go in either direction.
She can consistently trigger the passive effects of both.
And it looks like it might be.
Demon Hunter's Sword, while Golden Staff's attack effect synergizes.
Because like what I mentioned with the other marksmen, they use Trinity to increase their attack speed and benefit more from like auto attack effects. But if you attack fast automatically, you can still benefit from Trinity, because Corrosion Scythe and Demon Hunter Sword give you more effects the more you're able to hit. That's the whole reason why they're in a Trinity with Golden Staff in the first place, to maximize their on-hit effects as much as possible. It's a situation where Obsidia can build Trinity against tankier lineups and then build crit against squishier lineups. There's like not a lot of marksman heroes that can do this.
Previous equipment.
Alright, hold on, we're gonna look at this. So counters high mobility heroes. She would work really good against assassins and any 1v1 duelists, because her ult just tethers and she will outmaneuver them like crazy when they don't have their dash skills. Freya can't even do damage without having access to dash skills, so that's really good. She's countered by regular auto attack marksmen because they will probably burst her faster than she can burst them. And then we have Best Whiff. Yeah, for once, Best Whiff is not things like Tigreal, Minotaur, Atlas, because Obsidia doesn't actually do that well in AoE teamfight situations. She is probably better with a healer support or a pick-off support. But man, I don't like Estes being here.
Obsidia's ultimate will disable dash and blink skills,
but I will also say, it is a skill shot. The ultimate is a skill shot. So a good like Haya or Lance will be able to avoid it, and the moment that it's been fired and misses, you just have a free kill, actually.
Obsidia struggles during the early laning phase, making her vulnerable to other marksmen with strong early game, such as Bruno and Layla. Obsidia usually reaches her damage potential.
Layla is a strong early game, huh?
She wants support heroes
surprisingly,
early game,
kind of.
like Angela and Estes. Obsidia's Undying Remnant skin will be.
What do we think about the skin, y'all? What do we think about the skin compared to the regular design? I knew someone was going to say that ass. Okay, everyone. Okay, everyone. Chill out, relax, everyone. Order in the court. So I will say, from what I can see, actually, Obsidia actually feels really balanced. I actually do think that Obsidia is surprisingly balanced, because like she has a specific niche that she's suited for, which is 1v1 anti-mobility pickoff. She's not gonna be very good at team fighting. Her skill set just straight up is not very suited for it. And her early game is actually going to be kind of weak. Like, I can see the fact that she needs to stack up means that if she is lane against like Bruno, Brody, Clint, she's going to have a very hard time farming. So she is counterable. And then blade armor is going to be a huge issue for her as well. Like, she can be strong, especially if she stacks up properly with her abilities and she's drafted into the right team composition. But I don't actually think she's going to be super meta. I don't think this is actually a permaban hero for the first time in a very long time, you know? I actually really like it when games do this sort of hero design. She's meant for a specific niche. She has certain conditions she has to hit for that niche, and it's understandable how you need to play and how you need to pick to counter her. So I actually really like what Moonton have done here. Is it possible that she will be secretly OP? Yes. Because there are times when I miss things. There have definitely been situations in the past where I thought a hero was going to be not very strong, and then they ended up being absolutely busted. But I feel like this is one of those situations where the hero is actually somewhat balanced. So, good job, Moonton. We'll see what happens when Obsidia is actually released for pro play in a couple of weeks. But for now, I will say I do like what they've done with Obsidia. I just wish they didn't put so much bone in the hero. Alright. Alright, everyone. I hope everyone's ready to return to bone very soon.